Hello, you beautiful nerds. It's that time of year where we give ourselves an excuse to binge watch Star Wars all day. There's too many movies and TV shows to watch everything in one day, but I tried to watch some of my favorite movies on this holiday. By the way, here's my ranking. You can tell me why you think I'm wrong in the comments, but one of these movies has always kind of baffled me. It's not my least favorite Star Wars movie or anything, nowhere near in fact. This movie falls right in the middle of my ranking. Anyone who has spent more than 5 minutes around me has had to hear my rant about the worst Star Wars movie, but that's another video. One I will definitely make one day, but no, today we're gonna travel to a time long ago in a galaxy. Well, it's right here. It's our galaxy. And we're gonna discuss the movie that really ruined Star Wars,
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Have you ever watched a movie from your childhood and thought it doesn't quite hold up like you remember? Well, then you would enjoy our bi-weekly series, Does It Hold Up?, where we revisit classic genre films with a special guest to help us determine if it is as good or as bad as we remember. It's a whole lot of fun, so you should check it out.
Please check out the Drunk Bantha channel. They clearly are ready for being seen at a higher level.
Back to the show.
But first, a Prelude. In the year of our Lord 1980, the second installment in the Star Wars trilogy was released by the name of The
Empire Strikes Back.
And not everyone loved it. Yes, in the modern day, everyone recognizes that Empire Strikes Back is one of the best Star Wars movies that have been made. At the time, some critics praised the film's darker tone, while others felt that it was not as fun and optimistic as A New Hope, and the film suffered for it. So Return of the Jedi doing a 180 and making it a plucky movie about teddy bears and shit makes it feel like the filmmakers wanted to lighten the tone of the next movie. Sort of a Batman Returns, Batman Forever situation. I can actually think of another movie that did that too.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
The Emperor is dead.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith.
That's not good enough.
No, stop it, Grayson. We're not talking about that movie. Though Return of the Jedi did a much better job of wrapping up the trilogy, it still feels very reactionary to Empire's lukewarm reception. Get it? Lukewarm? Luke, what you get it? Yeah, you get it. I mean, Star Wars has always been inherently silly, but like 75% of this movie feels like a screwball comedy. And I know what you're thinking. Jedi Master Grayson, you've gone a little too far this time. The original trilogy is one of the best trilogies of all time, and Return of the Jedi has one of the most satisfying endings in movie history. And to that I say,
Nigga, no.
I'm sorry guys, but there are a lot of problems with this movie, and in this video I want to talk about the pacing, the story, the characters, and essentially how this movie broke Star Wars in a way that it's never been able to recover from. And you know what? I'm not even going to mention the Ewoks. They're not what makes this movie bad. Well, I'll probably mention them for a little bit. How can I not? One of the biggest problems with this movie is that it is really boring. I have to fight to stay awake every time I watch this thing. This is the most sleep-inducing Star Wars movie outside of maybe the holiday special. Steven Spielberg actually almost directed this film, and honestly, this movie feels kind of like someone trying to make a Steven Spielberg flick. I mean, can you imagine how good this movie would have been if it was made by Steven fucking Spielberg? Because beyond him being the GOAT of movie making, he is known for appreciating a good script while also realizing there's some dumb shit that needs to be taken out. I mean, he's worked with George Lucas before, and I'm sure that he's had to have a script argument or two with it. Not that I think Richard Marquand did a bad job, but I don't think that it's a hot take to say that this movie probably would have flowed better with someone like little Stevie Fableman at the helm. Because other than the first scene and the last scene, nothing interesting happens in this movie. And that first scene, it's pretty stupid. I remember loving this sequence as a kid, but now as an adult, I can't stand it. First of all, I forget how long this is. It goes on forever. It only seems to go on for so long because Luke's plan is convoluted and idiotic. First, 3PO and R2 get captured. Then Chewie gets captured. Then Leia gets captured. Bear in mind, this is all supposedly part of the plan. Then Luke gets captured. Then Luke murders everyone and the good guys escape. If the end of the plan is for Luke to just kill everybody and rescue Han, then why do we need most of the crew pretending to be prisoners? I dare say it would be easier for Luke to take down Jabba's goons with all his cool rebel buddies by his side. Although Luke doesn't seem like, I mean, he's doing just fine by himself.
Man, you fucking fucking with a nigga who got nothing to lose. Man, you fucking with a nigga who...
It certainly would have been more entertaining to see Luke and Chewie bust in on some, yo, y'all must got me fucked up, where my boy at? And maybe in the middle of the fight, Leia and Lando are revealed to have infiltrated the palace as bounty hunters and they join the fight to save Han. It sounds so much more fun and sensical than what happens here, and it's probably going to be a lot shorter. Then Luke goes to talk to Yoda because, you know, a lot's happened. A good time to catch up with your boy. And Luke is like, am I a Jedi now? I got this cool black outfit. And Yoda tells him that he won't truly be a Jedi until he confronts Vader. And Luke's like, oh yeah, I already did that. Hey, by the way, is he really my dad? And then Yoda's like, I must sleep. And go for forever. I'm gonna go ahead and die now. This scene and the one following it with Obi-Wan is just like such a clumsy dump of information and exposition and course correction.
Why didn't you tell me? You told me Vader betrayed and murdered my father.
What I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
A certain point of view?
Bitch, you better be joking.
And other than Luke and Vader, all the other characters are pretty lame in this movie. Well, actually, Lando is pretty cool. He's always pretty great. But Han and Leia's relationship in this movie is so dull. They don't really do anything interesting. They're doing this whole thing where Han is jealous of Luke, which makes no sense because Leia told Han that she loved him at the beginning of the movie. Leia becomes fucking queen of the Ewoks for some reason, and C-3PO is worshipped as a god. Is this really a Star Wars movie? Much like The Last Jedi, the characters that aren't Force users don't really get anything interesting to do until the final battle. And that is the fault of the story. It's no slight to the actors at all. The actors are still doing a great job with what they're given most of the time. I mean, one of my favorite Star Wars moments ever is just this. And let's talk about that final battle. The final battle was pretty rad, I'm not gonna lie. There are two elements that make it a little dumb though. The first is a complaint you hear a lot about this movie from people who don't like it, and that's the Ewoks. I told you, I'm gonna talk about them just a little bit though. I think the Ewoks are fucking dumb. I know I'm not the only one who thinks this, but I feel like it has to be said. They're stupid. Now, apparently in the first iterations of the script, the battle was supposed to take place outside of Kashyyyk. Kashyyyk? I don't know how it's pronounced. And it would be the Wookiees that would aid the rebels against the Imperial forces. But George wanted the Allies to be primitive and thought he couldn't really sell the idea after the audience had already seen Chewie fly and use blasters and shit like that. So then he created the Ewoks. At least that's the excuse that I read. Let me know in the comments if you heard something different, because I'm not personally convinced by that excuse. If that's the real reason, that's fucking dumb. The interaction with the Ewoks slows the movie down to a crawl. Everything with them is just so weird and boring. 3PO says it's against his programming to pretend to be a deity as an excuse for why he can't tell the Ewoks to let Han and Luke and Chewie go. But then in the next scene, he's sitting on a fucking throne pretending to be a deity. What the hell why are you guys even here? Don't you guys have something more important to do than fuck around with these teddy bears? Also, watching the Ewoks in the final battle just infuriates me. They're like bonking the stormtroopers on the head with sticks, and we're supposed to believe that they're actually hurting them. Every time I see this stuff, I just think of that movie Three Ninjas, and how that movie contrived so many situations to make Tum Tum, basically a toddler, a formidable fighter against grown-ass men. And this is the most egregious utilization of Tum Tum buffoonery I've seen in all my days. The second problem I have with the third act of this movie is the return of the Death Star. It's kind of silly that they just rebuilt the Death Star, and even more ridiculous that they just built it with a similar weak point that seems way easier to get to. Like, they don't need to even shoot a torpedo with a perfect shot using the Force at a tiny hole like the first one. Like, they just flew into a big ass room and blew that bitch up. It just really cheapens the idea of the Death Star as a formidable threat. Instead of feeling like a legit force of nature, it feels like a monster of the week villain. I admit the design of the half-built Death Star is pretty rad, and the reveal that the Death Star is actually operational is cool as shit. It's very effective. I'm just saying they didn't have to bring it back. It would have probably been just as cool if Luke, Vader, and the Emperor were all on Vader's ridiculously huge battleship. This feels like the first time the Star Wars franchise was trying to be self-referential and fan servicey. And this brings me to the core problem with this film that has echoed throughout Star Wars to this day. Star Wars became too aware of itself. This is the moment when Star Wars started going, hey, you remember this? You liked that, right? Well, it's back. People fell in love with Star Wars because it was new and interesting and exciting. Rehashing old ideas that people liked about the older movies isn't any of those things. I do still like this movie a lot, but that's mostly because this shit is in my blood.
I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old.
And I find a way to enjoy every Star Wars movie. Except this one. This one is legit poodoo. But I think there's a reason why those first two are considered the best of the franchise. Well, there are actually a ton of reasons, but one I think is very important is that Star Wars didn't know what it was yet.
We don't even know what it is yet. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it can be. We don't know what it will be. We know that it is cool.
The first two Star Wars movies were made with the sole purpose of telling a great story and to sell toys. Obviously, to sell toys.
Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
But this is the first film in the franchise that was made with the consideration of what the audience expects a Star Wars movie to be. Star Wars became a phenomenon with a fandom that had claimed ownership over what they grew to love, leaving their authors with the arduous task of accomplishing the impossible, pleasing all of the people all of the time.
Ooh-wee! This nigga got some $1 million words, don't he?
Alright, that's it for this review. Thank you so much for watching, and an extra thank you to all of our subscribers. If you want to check out any of my other Star Wars content, I got a bunch. You can see the name of the channel. But I make videos about a whole bunch of other nerdy shit, so feel free to take a look around at some of my video reviews and film analyses. Analysis, whatever, that's not important. Also, don't forget to tune in to our live podcasts, the Drunk Banthas podcast every 8 p.m. Pacific time, and the Bantha Bunch every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So until next time, I feel like I just said time a whole bunch. So until we meet again, stay safe, my little Wookiees, and may the Force be with you.